Before we get into this one, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Shy from Hot Choc TCG, who actually lent me the cards to let me do this particular video. Thank you very much, mate. If you want to check out his channel, I would greatly recommend it. It's down in the description. Let's get started. Pokemon VSTAR are finally out on PTCGO, and today we're going to take a look at Leafeon VSTAR. Of the two, Glaceon and Leafeon, I think this one is the best. Let's talk through the mechanic. This is the first time that we are using it on the channel, and then I'll show you the deck that we're going to be utilizing Leafeon VSTAR in. Leafeon VSTAR is a 260 HP Grass-type Pokemon. It is effectively a Stage 1. You evolve from a Leafeon V in the same way that you would evolve a Leafeon VMAX from a Leafeon V, but instead of giving away 3 prizes, we only give away 2. That means that Leafeon VSTAR is effectively a super bulky Leafeon V that is just that little bit harder for your opponent to knock out. That, I think, is very, very strong. The attack on Leafeon is pretty solid. For 2 grass and a colorless, we can use a Leaf Guard for 180 damage, and then during our opponent's next turn, they take less, we take 30 less damage, which is really quite good. But the reason this card is in the list that we're playing today is VSTAR. It's VSTAR power. Every single VSTAR Pokemon has either an ability or an attack that can be utilized once per game. In Leafeon's case, its ability, VSTAR, lets you switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon into the active position. It's effectively a free boss's orders. Now, we can only use it once, but that effect is very strong, and we really only need to use it once, so definitely worth including. Now, we would be remiss to not include Leafeon VMAX into this deck. This has been a deck in the past, and it's an obvious choice when we are looking at Leafeon VSTAR. Leafeon VMAX utilizes Grass Knot for a grass and a colorless energy. It deals 60 damage times the amount of retreat cost for your opponent's active Pokemon. That is usually going to be 1 or 2, 120 damage for 2 retreat cost, and then we can increase that by playing the Galar Mine Stadium. This stadium means that your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 colorless more. I mean, ours is as well, but we're not retreating, we're going to be attacking. That means that Pokemon with 2 retreat cost are generally being hit for 240 damage, which is very, very strong, and when we can combine that with cards like Inteleon with quick shooting, we can very easily get ourselves into positions where knockouts are super, super easy. One of the issues that Leafeon does have, though, is sometimes it is a little bit difficult to get energy into play. There's a couple of ways we can accelerate in this deck. Firstly, we have Leafeon V and Greening Cells. The ability on this Pokemon means that we can search our deck for a grass energy, attach it to one of our Pokemon, and then end our turn. That's really, really strong in the early turns of the game when you're not ready to attack in order to get those energy onto the board. Very, very nice. But in the late game, we want to be attacking, so we're going to combine that with Raihan. This supporter means that we can attach a energy from our discard pile to one of our benched Pokemon, and if we do that, one of our Pokemon, not benched, it doesn't need to be benched. When we do that, we can also search out a card from our deck. It's very, very powerful. We can only use it after one of our Pokemon has been knocked out in the previous turn. So a super powerful effect, but not necessarily useful all the time. In this instance, with Raihan and with Leafeon V, we should be able to get enough energy flowing around to have Leafeon VMAX attacking almost every turn, and with Leafeon VSTAR able to bring out benched Pokemon into the active position, we should find ourselves able to do a little bit more in those late turns than we would have been able to in the past. I mean, now we can play Raihan and use VSTAR to try and bring out a Pokemon on the bench, which we wouldn't have been able to do in the past. The rest of the list is fairly simple. We've got a regular Inteleon and Drizzile line with Shady Dealings. Very, very common. You'll see that in lots of decks. We've also got Professor's Research and Money and all those good cards. Honestly, I think this list is pretty solid. At the moment, it's probably not super competitive, but it's probably it's worth playing just so you can get your VSTAR counter flipped, which I'm very excited to do. Let's jump out into the ladder and see if we can't get ourselves a game with it. Alrighty, let's jump onto the ladder. We've got ourselves a couple of extra cards off of mulligans here, which I'm happy with, and we will start off by searching out our Leafeons. We'll grab one from the deck and put that onto the bench. Then we can play a Capture Energy, which will allow us to search our deck for another Pokemon and place it on the bench. That will be a Leafeon V. Then I can accelerate an energy. I'll put that energy onto Leafeon V and prepare ourselves for our opponent's turn. We've had a very nice setup. Hopefully they have a slow one. Looks like our opponent is playing Leafeon. Not Leafeon, we're playing Leafeon. What am I talking about? It's been a very long day. It's been a very, very long day. Looks like our opponent's playing Sylveon, so they're going to be playing Sylveon VMAX and a bunch of other Rapid Strike Pokemon. Opal is not necessarily a card that we always see in these lists, but hey, one heads flip is pretty solid. That means they're going to be able to search their deck for a card and put it into their hand. And it looks like our opponent's gone for a couple of Blaziken on the bench. Obviously, fire is strong against grass, so a pretty good choice there. Our opponent's going to go for Magical Shot and take a knockout, which I don't dislike on that Sobble. It means that we can get our Leafeon into play very, very quickly. Obviously, I would prefer to use more Drizzile abilities if I can, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let's promote this Leafeon with 2 energy on it and prepare ourselves for our next turn. Now, we've got ourselves a pretty solid one here. We can attach to Leafeon. We should evolve as well. We're going to evolve our VMAX here. We have Fan of Waves, which we could use. I don't know if I want to use it, to be honest. This is actually a really interesting position to be in. There's a lot going on here. We'll attach to the bench first, then we'll use Level Ball. That's going to be grabbing ourselves a Drizzile. I'll play that down. I almost don't want to use Fan of Waves because I don't want my opponent to have access to extra energy thanks to their Blazikens. But hey, listen, it's not going to be that big of a deal if I leave it on, I don't think. I mean, we probably could play it. I'm just going to go for Professor's Research here. We're not about making the right plays today. We are about making the plays that feel good in our soul. And I'm going to start off by using Grass Knot. 180 damage onto a Sylveon is pretty solid. Obviously, it's not a knockout. I would have preferred a knockout. But our opponent is in an awkward spot now. They can evolve into a VMAX, which they're doing. But it means that we will be able to get a knockout on that next turn. Now, they do have the Sylveon Charm there, which will stop us from taking 3 prizes, but we do have a copy of Tool Jammer in the deck, so if we draw into it, or if we can find Drizzile or Inteleon or any search cards, we should be fine. We've got an Evo Incense in hand, but we've also got the Tool Jammer, so that's a pretty good sign. We will be taking 3 prizes next turn, no matter what our opponent gets up to. Looks like they've got at least 140 damage coming down here. They've got Max Harmony for 140. If we had have managed to have gotten rid of that energy with our Fan of Waves, maybe we could have avoided that. But you know what? It's not the end of the world. Let's Evo Incense here. I'm going to grab, I think we've got a supporter in our hand. I think I'm going to grab a Drizzile here. Not to get another supporter per se, but instead to get ourselves a little bit more set up. I'd like to see a bit more on our bench. We will Quick Ball. I'm going to get rid of the Galar Mine, and then I'm going to play down another Sobble. And you might say, Mitch, why are you doing that? You've just essentially done the exact same thing. You've got a Sobble on the bench, and you've not really advanced your hand at all. Well, I've thinned out the deck, which is quite good, and we were always going to play that Marnie anyway. So we want to reduce the cards that we don't want to draw into. We've got ourselves Inteleon, which is great. We can quick shooting here. Going to put some damage on this Blaziken. That's going to be the way that we win this game, so we should do that. Then I will Grass Knot, we'll take the knockout, and because of the Tool Jammer, we're taking 3 prizes, which is very, very nice. Now, all we need to do is get ourselves a knockout on the Blaziken on the bench. And we've just unprized 3 grass energies. So that's a lot. That is a lot of energies to be unprizing. Now, our opponent's already used 2 Rapid Strike energies, but of course they have a 3rd in their hand. I was about to say, there's a good chance that they don't find it. They might need to go for Octillery, but no, they just get it, because, you know, that's just the way that it is. Obviously, they will be dealing quite a significant chunk of damage here. They're going to be using their Max Blaze attack, which does 130 or 140 damage, something like that. I did double check it before, but I'm not going to check it again. That is going to take a knockout on our Leafeon VMAX, because we've got that little bit of extra damage already. Maybe I could have used Max Leaf last turn to reduce the amount of damage that was on me, but they were going to knock me out regardless, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. There's 3 prizes for them, and they're going to accelerate a few energies onto their bench as well. Now we are in we're in a very interesting spot, actually, because our opponent, having 3 Pokemon ready and powered up, they could potentially win the game next turn. They're going down to 2 prizes, so we're going to need a little bit of luck and a little bit of strategy and intelligence, which, I mean, I wouldn't expect too much from me, but that's okay. We'll do our very best. We'll put the Leafeon in the active. We have Energy in hand, so we'll attach that, and we have a VMAX as well. So that's going to stop a Blaziken from taking a knockout on the active this turn. They cannot deal that amount of damage. Then we're going to evolve the Drizzile into Inteleon. That'll do 2 things. Firstly, we can search for 2 trainer cards, and honestly, I think one of those is probably going to be Marnie. Our opponent's hand is very, very big. Let's see, what should we do? I think Marnie and Evo Incense is fine. We'll, again, thin the deck out with Evo Incense. I'll grab the Leafeon VSTAR here. I think this is perfectly acceptable. We'll play that down. We need to play Marnie, because if our opponent has Boss's Orders in their hand, they'll actually win the game. We don't have another VMAX, so the Leafeon on the bench will be knocked out if our opponent can find that Boss's Orders. So we need to reduce the amount of cards that they have in their hand. And that's the best way of doing it. Then we'll quick shooting, we'll put the damage on the Blaziken. I think it's realistically the only thing that we can do. And then we will Grass Knot into the active. And I think now we are waiting to see if they have Boss. They've said well played, so I'm assuming that we're going to lose here. But, you know, you never know these things. Sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you think it's going to. They've got Evo Incense. They can play down Blaziken VMAX. They'll be able to get a second attacker in play, but that doesn't really matter. We have the Leafeon VSTAR on the bench, so if we don't lose, we're actually going to win this one, which is pretty solid. Being able to beat a type weakness like this is quite good, and Leafeon has always been quite good at doing that. So if we can manage to avoid the Boss's Orders, that would be fantastic. Now, our opponent said well played before. Either that means that they've got 1 Boss's Orders in hand and they're just being really rude to us, or they're saying well played because they don't actually have the boss and they know that we can win the game next turn. And they're playing Karina. Okay, so we should go on to win this. Grass Knot will be dealing, what, 240 damage, so that'll be plenty to knock out the active, even if they retreat by discarding their energy and then going into their Blaziken on the bench, then we'll be fine. Looks like our opponent is grabbing the boss for next turn, if there is one, but honestly, there's not. Grass Knot's going to do the job here. It'll be perfectly fine, and we will actually get away with a win against a very awkward matchup. So, very impressive. Leafeon VSTAR coming in clutch right at the end, giving us that Boss's Orders that we needed. And to be honest, if we didn't have Leafeon VSTAR in this deck, then we would not be able to win this one. Because we don't have access to Boss at all. We've got no way to search. Well played, my friend. We'll Ivy Star up your little Blaziken in the back there. And then we can use Grass Knot for game. Oh, they've played Tower of Waters. Oh, they conceded anyway. Oh my god. Well, that was awkward. Well, there's some proof that you should probably pay attention to what's going on the screen, because I didn't do a great job of that one. We got away with it in the end and managed to get a win, which is fantastic. Hey, listen, thanks for coming along. I appreciate it. We're going to try and get a Glaceon deck profile up very, very soon, but if you are looking for a new video to watch, then I'd recommend this one over here. It's a pretty solid deck list, and it's going to be good for you on PTCGO as well. So jump into that, become a member, do all that good stuff. I'm very close to the camera here. Look at how big my head is. Anyway, thanks everyone. I'll catch you next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.